Hey guys, I'm going to give it a couple of minutes so that we can get some people on here. I didn't announce this one today, but today's episode is a live version of Futuristic Now, and I wanted to talk about the deepfake videos that have been going around of Mark Zuckerberg and Kim Kardashian, besides all the other deepfake videos that have been going on for quite a while. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because it's something I've been talking about for a long time. As a futurist, I've been talking about digital consciousness, and I've tried to lay that out in layers, the way that it would unfold and the way that we're seeing it unfold in the near future. So I posted the other day that we are in the age of deepfake technologies, and that it's not just celebrities that are going to be affected, it's going to be you, and it's going to be your children. This is going to trickle down into everyone's life. And so what does that mean for continuity of digital consciousness? I mean, hell, what does it mean for the future of material consciousness in this world? Not even talking about the simulated world or the AR or the VR world. What does it mean for this reality? And so this is something I just wrote about. I'm being published in a new book at the end of this year called Aftershock. It's a follow-up to Alvin Toffler's book, Future Shock. And I wanted to talk about, I think I called it digital hallucinations, or technological hallucinations is what I called the chapter, which is great because that's what deepfakes are. They're literally hallucinations of our reality, this digital hallucination of our reality. And the trouble here, and the trouble that we're getting ourselves in as we move towards the future, that this is not the holodeck in Star Trek, okay? This is happening all of the time, and it's becoming and will become more invasive in your everyday reality. So in other words, you're not stepping into a space that's holographic, that you control when you enter that altered state. The altered state is coming to you. And that's what's happening with the deep fakes. It's what's going to start happening. The thing that's most frightening is the ability to use this as propaganda, not just politically, but imagine CEOs like Elon Musk. Imagine someone wanting to take down Tesla or crash their stock because they wanted to make a video of him saying something outrageous that he would never say. We're already there. I mean, we've already seen a video of Mark Zuckerberg, a deep fake video of Mark Zuckerberg. So this brings up lots of questions about digital consciousness, digital twin of the self, not the industrial digital twin, but the digital twin of the self, continuity of consciousness in this plane, the material plane, the reality plane, if you want to call it that, and the next stage that we're moving towards, which is the digital consciousness stage, the platform where most of us will spend our times in the future. The same way that you're looking at me now, we are already in that first stage. This is the first stage of digital consciousness. You and I, the people watching, we are sharing this digitized version of me, and in a lot of ways the viewer, because you're typing in questions, hopefully, hello, and that is a digitized version, a micro sliver of our consciousness. It's algorithmic, it's multi-layered, holographic, and it's here now. We've already crossed that threshold. We've been in it for a long time. We've been in it for about 15, maybe 20 years, 5 years for the next level. So the AI has, AI that can manipulate videos and voices, that's been around for a little while. So we're already in that. We've already crossed that threshold into a new realm of digital reality. Okay. Futurists have been talking about this for a very long time. 30 years ago, 25 years ago, Alvin Toffler, Buckminster Fuller, Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, all of these futurists were talking about this. They knew it was coming. We've known for a very long time that it's coming, and now it's here. So the question is, what now? And what's next? So I have a couple of ideas. One, we're going to have counter deepfake technologies that will flag videos and photographs, hopefully, when any sort of misalignment or tampering is noticed within the file. I think the way that we do that is through blockchain, but that's yet to be seen. We will see how that plays out. Ideally, we may need to move all of our social media content, all of our digital videos, everything digital about us may need to be moved into that blockchain environment, because then if an alteration is made, everyone will see it. How else can we know in the near future if what we are seeing is true? This brings up the idea of digital consciousness, continuity of consciousness, manipulation of digital consciousness, manipulation of digital self, alteration of the digital twin, the digital self. I mean, you're just really talking about chaos. Digital chaos is what you're talking about. So what's at stake here is monumental. It is the sanity of our species. That is what is at stake at this point. And it sounds hyperbolic, but if you can't tell the difference between reality and simulation, think about what that does to our world. Think about what it does to us politically, economically, as a species. How do we have a cohesive agreement about what reality is if our consciousness is being manipulated algorithmically? That's my question to you. So this is what I've been thinking about today, primarily because I was when I first saw deepfake technologies maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the most famous videos were Obama and Putin, and you could tell that they'd been manipulated. It was obvious. But we're getting now to a stage where the microfacial movements with AI is becoming so believable that your unconscious mind starts to actually believe it. So we're just slipping past that unconscious filter that we have when we see a face and we think it's either real or not real. This video is real, by the way. So in this chapter for Aftershock, I talked about the division between the different stages of consciousness that we're going to move towards in the future. So there is the biological consciousness, meaning that it's unaffected by technology. And I don't mean just the video, because this is a technologically altered state that I'm having with you right now. I'm talking about person-to-person, face-to-face. That is biologically, technologically unaltered reality. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is biodigital reality. What we're doing now is biodigital. VR is biodigital. AR is biodigital. So there's some sort of augmentation that's happening to the consciousness. And then the third is hyperdimensional simulated consciousness. That is sort of the final spectrum before we get into that is the final spectrum before we get into the simulated reality that we're moving towards in the future. So part of that is going to be not just putting technology onto the body, but putting technology into the body. Scary proposition, people, because we don't know who's running those algorithms. We don't know who is in control of those technologies. And we are not able to, especially in the age of quantum computing, we're not able to predict or stop hackers from hacking into these systems, creating alterations and augmentations to our videos and our images and our voices. I think it happened to Joe Rogan. I think the last one I saw was of Joe Rogan. It was an AI that replicated his voice, and it sounded exactly like him. I haven't seen any reaction from him. I don't know what his reaction was to that, but it actually took his voice and replicated it. So the AI was able to create Joe Rogan's voice. It's pretty miraculous, actually. So that middle stage is actually where we are now. So we're past the biological stage, obviously. Now we're in the augmented consciousness stage, which is what we're doing now and what AR and VR will be. Then after that is the breaking of the brain barrier, meaning that we either implant some sort of device into our brain, as Elon Musk has suggested, the neural lace or whatever. And I'm not sure how we get there. I'm not sure how ethically and morally we get there. I don't think a lot of people are going to adopt that, because we're already seeing in San Francisco, people are saying, well, we're not going to allow facial recognition. So if you're not going to allow facial recognition, are you really going to allow people to put implants into your brain? So what's happened is, and I've talked about this before, we are living through a hyper crunching of evolution, digital evolution. Millions of years are happening right in front of us. Some of us are aware of that, and you can see that people are starting to realize that something is shifting faster and faster. And some people are sort of caught up by the idea that this is just some gadget that's, or some algorithm that is being explored. But it isn't that at all. This is something much greater, something much more profound. What's happening is that it's exponential, it's compounding. And this digital evolution that we're going through is moving faster and faster and faster. And so we're actually living through this digital evolution and seeing it unfold right within our lifetimes. So we're in the middle stage now, digital consciousness. That's the age we're in. The next stage, and I've written and talked about this at length, is the simulated age and the hyper awareness, the hyper digital awareness that we're moving towards, meaning that AI is augmenting our consciousness. It's augmenting our reality in a way that it moves us into hyper awareness. And what I mean by this is, when you say to someone, what is reality? Okay. Well, right now, the human mind, human beings can only see a very small sliver of the light spectrum. We can only hear a very small sliver of what is audible in the world. That means that we're only seeing and hearing and experiencing a very small portion of what is actually really around us. So when you say to me, well, what is reality? Well, the data is not complete. We don't have all the data. We're not even seeing reality yet. We're still evolving towards seeing true reality. So we're not even fully awake yet. But AI is going to augment that. AI, if we incorporate that into our consciousness, and if it's augmenting our consciousness, suddenly you can see with night vision. You have access to an enormous amount of information. If we can process that information, that's yet to be seen as well, because the brain can only process so much information at any given moment. But in the moment to moment that we're experiencing our own consciousness, AI can be running in the background, augmenting that, opening up new areas into what I've been calling hyper-reality, hyperdimensional reality. Meaning that suddenly we're going to see the world more clearly and more accurately as it really is. Keeping in mind that we only see a small portion of what we call reality right now. So that is part of the simulated future that I've been talking about. The idea that not only will we be more sensitive to true reality and more aware of it, but the AI will be augmenting and simulating things around us as that's happening. More information, more consciousness, and augmented digital consciousness. That's where we're headed. All of that's interesting, but it's also very scary because we've just launched this rocket without any direction on which way it's going. I mean, there are very few people that know how to do this. Create the deepfake technologies, AI. There's a small percentage of human beings on this planet that know how to do those things. And an even smaller percentage of people that care to think about the ethics and the morality behind it. So I'm, a lot of, when I first started in this field, I think people, the negative reaction that I got from people was because people thought I was advocating for every technology that I was talking about. I'm not an advocate for some of these technologies. I think some of them are dangerous. I think some of them are potentially catastrophic, socially, economically, psychologically. Some of them are beneficial and some of them could work to our advantage. But not enough of us, and I mean anyone watching this, the average person that's never heard of a futurist, they don't know what a futurist is, they don't know what deep fakes are, the average person, if they're not involved in all of this, and Isaac Asimov used to say this too, we cannot leave it up to the academics or the corporations to make these decisions. We have to be involved in creating the future. So this is part of the message that I was trying to get across at the Boston University speech that I gave recently, is that I wanted to say to that audience that in a post-automation age where work may be replaced by automation, what is our purpose? What is our purpose on this planet if jobs are replaced? If you have no job and work no longer exists to a certain degree, okay, maybe you're coding, whatever. Then we have to ask the ultimate question, which is, why the hell are we here? What is our purpose? Not individually, but what is our purpose? What are we here to do? And that is a cosmic question. That's not a economic question. It's not a business question. It's not a self-help question. That is a cosmic question. And see, this is what makes someone a futurist. I'm not a foresight expert. I'm not a trend expert. I'm a futurist. This goes back to the original Russian cosmists, the original futurists from the 1950s and 60s. They were asking cosmic questions, the Sagan questions, okay? The question of, what is evolution trying to do with us? What is our purpose? And so in that speech at Boston University, I was asking the crowd, and this is a business crowd, but I was asking the crowd, we may face a future where we have to ask our employees and ourselves what our purpose is. If the jobs go away, what is our purpose? Is it, as Gene Roddenberry thought, is it to explore the stars? Maybe. Is it, as I've been saying, a portal inward? The future is a portal inward. Is it to explore the internal self? Maybe. And how do we get there? I mean, this is the question. How do we get there? Camilo was saying merge with the machines. Well, that's an option. To the transhumanist movement says That's our only way out. I don't necessarily believe that. I've talked about transhumanism, and I understand that movement, but I'm not necessarily advocating for us to become machines. We already are machines. We are biodigital machines. That's what we are. Think about the millions and millions of years of evolution that it took for us to be able to sit here on YouTube. I mean, just think about what had to happen for this to occur. But that time scale is being crunched. We're moving so much faster now. Evolution is moving so much faster now. The biodigital evolution is happening so much faster now. So suddenly, we're on the verge of creating potentially self-aware machines in the near future. And I know a lot of technologists will say, well, that's impossible. That's never going to happen. Well, that's bullshit, because we know that it's coming. The evidence is clear. It will not be human consciousness. It never will be. But machine self-awareness, listen to what I'm saying, machine self-awareness will be possible. We're already seeing little pieces of it starting to happen. There's research now that shows that these machines have some sense of themselves in the world. That's the beginning of self-awareness. It's the same thing that happens in humans, in children. It comes in stages. We emerge into awareness in stages. We're not born fully aware. And that's what's going to happen with the machines. There's going to be little increments, and as that compounds, it's going to grow exponentially until suddenly these machines have some sort of awareness that we will call machine self-awareness, not human self-awareness. It may mimic us, but it won't be human self-awareness. And there's a whole list of things that have to happen for that to occur. I've actually debated a lot of people about this, whether the machines need to have a body, to have consciousness. You could go on and on. That's a whole separate show. But going back to my original point here with the deep fake technologies and how that's going to alter our consciousness, and why this is important, not just for the individual watching this, but why this is important for corporations. Look, anybody can take a video of your CEO, no matter what company you're at, and crush your stock overnight by having them say something horrendous and putting that out, hacking your social media and putting that out there. So this is not something that's just for celebrities. This is not something that is a fantasy. This is here. So don't be surprised if you see companies, digital personhood insurance. I mean, this is something we're going to see in the future too, where people start insuring their digital persona in case something catastrophic happens, in case a deep fake comes up and they lose their house and their business and whatever. You're going to need insurance for this. You're going to need companies that are monitoring your digital self, your digital twin, your digital consciousness, and making sure that there are technologies that are flagging these deep fake videos that are taking your image and making you say things you never said. So we're in an interesting moment right now. I guess we have been over and over in the last maybe 15, 20 years, because the digital revolution sort of swept over us before we really had a chance to figure out what this thing is. It's sort of like the 2001 moment where the monkeys are scratching on the monolith. I mean, that's what's happening. I mean, this alien thing has come and landed in our lap, and we don't know what the hell it is. We have no reference to understand it. How can you explain to children now that this thing that they're seeing is not real, when everything that we have learned throughout our history as human beings is that our sensorial experience, to a certain degree, you have to trust that. You have to trust that when you're seeing something face to face, or if you see something that an image of something, that object or that image is a replication of something real. This leads into the idea of the simulation in its greatest and most profound, the essence of that. It is a profound disconnect between the reality of consciousness and digital consciousness. So I just wanted to make an episode to talk about that briefly. First, because this is not a new subject. It's been out for a very long time. Primarily, thank you. Primarily, what troubles me is that the general public is so far removed from what's actually happening. That's how dictators take over. This is how countries fall. And the United States is not immune to this. I don't want to get political, but this is you're starting to see symptoms and signs of the alteration of reality right now, where we've been seeing it with Cambridge Analytica, we've been seeing it on Facebook, we've been seeing it on Twitter, with bots, with propaganda machines, with AI. All of this is in effort to make you question your sense of reality and your sense of continuity of consciousness. We're not even getting into, I mean, we could get into this, but we're not even getting into, and I don't, I'm at a place now where, you know, if a futurist is frightened, that we're in trouble, because there are technologies and things that have come out in the last couple of months that have really made me frightened for us. Not necessarily just because there are nefarious characters behind the scenes trying to make these things happen and alter our sense of reality, but that, I mean, that's frightening alone in itself. But what's more frightening is that the general public has no idea that this is happening, and seems to not even really care that this is happening. And I understand that, because most people don't care about these sorts of things until it affects them. Well, it's here and it's going to affect you. And it already is. I mean, all of the things that we've seen on Facebook, this algorithm of deception that we're seeing in a lot of social media networks, that in itself is doing damage to us psychologically as a species. We're suddenly more paranoid. We're suddenly questioning our own consciousness. We're questioning what is real and what's not real. Trust has become an issue. And so this is just another layer of complexity that we're going to have to deal with in the future. The future is not, as I've said, the future is complex. It's more complex. It gets more complex as we move forward. And part of that is this idea that I've talked about the future being a portal inward. The internal landscape is much more complex than the world outside of us. The world outside of us, the material world, especially what we can access through our consciousness, we simplify that so that we can digest the world. But the internal unconscious landscape is incredibly complex. So again, this brings up a lot of questions of how do we maintain continuity of reality and continuity of consciousness in the future? You look at films like Blade Runner, and there are agreements that are made in Blade Runner. There are agreements in consciousness. We know what replicants are. The public is aware that they exist. The technologies that you see, the holograms in the city, we know those are not real because there's an agreement to that. The culture has agreed that these images are not real, that these are digital holograms. So is it a lack of effort on our part as a species that we have reached a bridge now that is so treacherous that we're not sure we can make it over this bridge, that we are walking blindly over it now? Is that what's happening? Because there are people out there talking about it. There are lots of futurists out there talking about it and have been for a long time, way before I got here. Mind aware. Yeah. Camilla, that's, yeah. So anyway, I'll end this episode now. And I hope this has given you guys something to think about. I mean, obviously this is what I do, so I'm thinking about this all the time, but this specifically touched a nerve with me because I guess because I've been spending so much time talking about digital consciousness and the future of digital consciousness. And this is a severe roadblock for us to create a future that is beneficial and not harmful. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Comment on the video once it finishes. Once we stop the live version of this, if you guys would comment on the video, because I would love to hear your theories and your questions, and I would love to hear your comments about what you think about what's going on and where we're headed with this. Part of my job is to bring this to everyone's attention, but I'm also asking you all to get activated and to get involved in this. This is going to take all of us, and things are not going to get any more simple. They're only going to get more complex, and I mean, as you're seeing now. And there's so many elements to this too. There are branches of this that I'm not even talking about right now because I just wanted to stay focused on this one area. But some of the things that we can start thinking about too is when we move into the virtual reality space or the augmented reality space, where everyone is wearing augmented glasses the same way they're holding phones, meaning billions of minds are wearing these smart glasses with an augmented layer laid on top of reality. And if someone can hack that and hack what you're seeing without you noticing, this is actually something, perceptual influence is something I wrote about in this new chapter for Aftershock. This is the idea that hackers could hack into your VR or AR headset and alter something in your vision in a way that benefited them. So for example, if a promoter had a product and they hired a hacker to show you this product over and over again, could be subtle, could be on the train going to work, someone's wearing a t-shirt that says it. They're not actually wearing that, but the hacker has overlaid this simulated version of the t-shirt so that you keep seeing this brand over and over again. And you didn't give them permission. It's been hacked through your augmented reality glass system. So that's something to think about. The ability to hide our identity or change our identity through the augmented reality space, where if I don't want to be seen anymore, if I decide I've had enough of showing people my real face and I just want to augment my face, and so that when you look at me through your augmented glasses, I send a beacon to that, which only lets you see what I want you to see, and vice versa. You could do the same. I mean, all bets are off at that point. I mean, then we can be whatever we want, and reality becomes a shit show. Interesting, absolutely. Beneficial to sanity? Probably not. So what's the future of sanity, people? Anyway, I think that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. This is Gray Scott, and this has been Futuristic Now. Bye-bye.